Hey guys, Omar here, and I'm about to sadly return the Nikon Z6 II back to B&H. Our friends at B&H sent us a Nikon Z6 II to play with for a month, and I shot everything. I shot portraits, I shot on the street, the kids and food. And so this is not a very technical review. This is a user review from me. Yeah, just me. Now, I don't do a lot of Nikon videos on this channel, so I'll introduce myself to those of you that, were suggested this video by the algorithm. My name is Omar. I'm a professional photographer here in the New Jersey, New York area, and I shoot mostly portraits, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and I love travel photography. And for my professional work, I've been using the Sony a7 III. Prior to that, I was using a Canon. And when I'm out shooting on the street or for myself or travel or kids, I use Fujifilm smaller cameras, which I love. I will honestly say that, I don't know if you've done this before, but I put this camera in my cart. I took it out of the cart. I put it in the cart to purchase it. And I realized, calm down, just wait a little bit. I love the camera 100%, and the number one reason is image quality. I was not a Nikon shooter at all. I've only been introduced to the Nikon system in the last few months when I picked up the Nikon D700 and a D600 to play around with. I was blown away by the image quality, and it's been trickled up to the Nikon Z6 II as well. Greens, blues, and reds are vibrant and full of life, but not in a vivid, nauseating, supersaturated way. They just look rich and delicious. That was a technical term. The EVF is fantastic on the camera. The screen is beautiful. It's touchscreen. You can swipe through your photos, pinch to zoom. The screen is very responsive. Unlike other touchscreens, I found this one to be very enjoyable to use. I prefer, as a photographer, this kind of screen. If you're a videographer, you may need one that flips all the way around. So you got to think about that. You can double tap to see your photos closer, but unlike Fujifilm, if you double tap anywhere on the screen, it will zoom to where the camera focus, which is very helpful. Here, it will double tap to wherever on the picture you double tap. So it depends what you prefer. Another positive of the Nikon Z6 II is it allows you to pick a size of your RAW files. You don't always need the most megapixels. And for example, the Canon R5 and R6, they compress your RAW files, but you're not allowed to pick a smaller pixel size of your RAWs. And sometimes if you're shooting high bursts and sports, you're just shooting a Little League game, you don't need 45 megapixels of that Little League game. So the Nikon Z6 II is 24 megapixels, but you can reduce the size of the RAWs, which is great. And I like that that's in this camera. It's very sad that some of the other cameras are using compression algorithms to reduce the size of their images, but they're not allowing you to choose the pixel size of your RAWs. So I like that a lot. The manual focus and the focus peaking is the best I've seen on any camera. I just love seeing a confirmation green square when you hit manual focus, and also the focus peaking is very pleasing. I personally like the yellow one, which coasts through the image and helps to manually focus. And also when you hold down your shutter and turn your manual focus wheel, it does engage manual focus, which is very helpful too. So you can autofocus and then use the lens round thingamabub to manually focus. Another positive of the Nikon Z6 II, or maybe all the Z cameras, is the menu remembers the last place you were. So on my Fujifilm cameras, I'll be working in, the settings, and then I get out of the menu. But when you hit menu again, it goes back to the top, and you have to scroll down to where you were. So I love that the Nikon systems and even the DSLRs do this. They remember where you were. The shutter sound on the camera is really quiet. I shot a service where I didn't even have to put it on electronic shutter. And sometimes if there's motion or you move the camera, you can get some rolling shutter, which is, any straight lines move. But listen to this. That is so quiet. Oh, we should probably compare it to the D700 shutter sound. You got to hear this. Okay, the complete opposite of the Z6 II. Listen to this. The image stabilization in the camera is great for low light photography or tripodless photography if you're trying to shoot a waterfall or something. I got down hand holding, and I'm pretty shaky, down to about 1/8 of a second. Your results may vary. Another excellent touch is Nikon included a mini HDMI instead of the dreaded micro HDMI, which is the worst connection ever created. You also have a USB-C, which you can charge and also transfer your images from. Now for autofocus, that one's a little, it totally depends on what kind of photography you do. If you're a casual shooter that's traveling and you just need to single focus on everything and fire away, all of the Z cameras are fine for that. If you're doing portraits, it's totally fine for that too. It gets confused every now and then, but a portrait session or a studio session is nothing that is too taxing for the autofocus system on the Z6 II. Now, as far as like design of the autofocus system, I feel like it's not fully polished. There are some great options on there, like for example, the wide zone, and it finds an eye during a portrait session. I love it. It totally works great. Fantastico. Now, if your subject is backlit or the camera starts to struggle, well, that's where you need to switch modes. And the implementation of how you switch modes is, to me, it's just too many steps. For example, you need to hold down a button and cycle through choices. Now you can limit those choices in the menu, like you can remove all of them except your 2 favorite. The problem is then if you want one of those that you removed, you have to dive back into the menu and reactivate it. Now, this is more of a workflow issue and a muscle memory issue. So if you start shooting with this camera, you're just gonna be able to switch by holding and flipping the front dial twice. You just have to memorize. All right, let me give you an example of that. Let's say we're shooting a very cool magic show and we want to focus between the magic going on the hand and also the magician's face. So right now I'm using eye autofocus and it's focusing, totally can take pictures of the magician. If I want to take a picture of the hand, I either I have a front function button set to tracking. So now if you notice I have a little box, I can put that on the hand and it will track the hand no matter what. Okay, so that's one thing you could do, but it takes a step. Now if I hit that function button again, it goes back to face, function button, there we go. Hit the function button again, face, function button. So I have a tracking box available to me all the time. So that's one workaround. You have to completely enable and disable that little tracking box. Okay, so it's a little bit, like I said, muscle memory. Now, by default, it's the OK button. So that's even worse. You have to hit the OK button, you focus, take your pictures, hit the OK to disengage, and for some reason, it's not disengaging. Oh, you have to exit with this button. Let's see, OK, got a box, take pictures. To get rid of that box, you have to hit this one to disengage. Now, if you don't use the function buttons, this is what I meant, that there's a little bit of, you have to choose either the wide tracking for face, or I'm holding down a button and I'm going once to the right to get a single focus point. Okay, hold down the function, go once left, and now I have face tracking again. Push the function button in, go right twice, and I have a single. So you can go back to single. So again, a muscle memory thing, but totally doable. Face to single focus. Again, we all do different kinds of photography, but I found that personally, it removed my brain from being present in the moment. So I love interacting with my subjects and seeing the sparkle in their eye. But anytime the camera struggled, I'd have to remove myself from the interactions with my subject and the analytical mode, move mode to places, you know what I mean? And so when I shoot my Sony, let me show you Sony. Now on my Sony camera, I have 2 buttons right here that are always available for my thumb. One of them is an eye, and one of them is for a single focus point. And that is another sort of little hang up I have with the Nikon system. The Sony lets you have a single focus point that is locked forever. It doesn't move, it doesn't get bumped. The touchscreen doesn't move it to the side. It is 100% always centered. And you cannot lock a center focus point on the Nikon Z6 II. And that for me personally is a little bit of an issue because I'm sort of a photojournalistic, super fast shooter at events. And I don't have time to move or place a focus point, move it around. So I'm always either grabbing an eye or grabbing a single focus point on an object or shooting between people. So personally for me, it's slower. The camera is slower to use from a switching mode, autofocus mode. Now, one workaround is I could leave a center focus box on all the time and turn off the touchscreen, make sure that the center focus point always stays there. But I love the eye autofocus on this camera. It works great. It's very helpful to have it. You know, you see people, you just get that eye autofocus to turn on. If I do purchase the camera, it is something I'm gonna get used to, I'm sure. But I just love the implementation of having two buttons that do two different things. Taking pictures of the Magician, we're using eye, and now, oh, something happened there. We're using eye again, we're using eye, taking pictures of the Magician. Oh, something happened there. Now, something else to think about is the dual card slots. One is in CF Express. If you're strapped for cash, this whole system starts to get a little pricey. And so I would actually look at the Z5. If you don't do a lot of video and you don't do anything very intensive, then look at the Z5. The Z5 looks like it has two dual card slots, but they're only the SD card slots. But take a look at the Z5. That is also on my radar, either as a future backup Z camera or a Z camera to own, to walk around, to use on portrait sessions. Z5 looks pretty good too. Overall, this camera is a super win. I am this close to owning it. I love the image quality. I love the ergonomics, the buttons, the dials. I do wish that, the touchscreen, the EVF are all pluses. There's a couple of Z hangups I have. I am not a fan at all of the lenses that have to be unlocked. They're locked to save space in your bag, but I like a lens that's like ready to go. If I pull it out of the bag, I don't, you can pull it out of the bag and shoot. You don't have to use your other arm. That kind of stuff is just, is it locked? Is it unlocked? There was one time where I tried to go, hyperly. I tried to go as wide as possible and it locked the lens during an event. So again, it's something to get used to, but I feel like that if things are designed well, they don't need any getting used to. They just work well straight out of the box. And the lens lockable locking thing, I do not like. So if I were to purchase the Z cameras, I would definitely not get any of these lenses. The other thing I would love to see from Nikon is, like, for example, if you want to zoom into your images, you can pinch to zoom on the touchscreen. The touchscreen is fantastic. Why do we need to zoom in and zoom out? Like, we could use these buttons for something else. And so you're not allowed to customize any button to do anything you want. And it would be great to be able to set up the camera exactly how you want. Overall, do I recommend the Nikon Z6 II? Absolutely. It depends what photography you do. I say if you do crazy birds in flight and you're shooting sports, then maybe go elsewhere. But for portraits and all-around shooting and travel and landscapes and, man, the images are just so beautiful that you have to consider this camera. All right, I hope that was helpful. I'll see you guys next time.